you guys?
Well, so we have Samuel Ayape in the studio. He's a member of parliament for Swano, and thanks for joining me, sir.
Thank you, my brother.
And we want to get into mainstream issues. We're looking at Agoko youth ban or political party activity until the last. We'll be using EC scheming to impose Mahama, and that's Methodist bishop, and government holds emergency meeting with CPC shut down, etc. We'll look at also the strike action by Guta and other stories. But let's look at that. This one seems to have caught my eye. On the front page, Samuel, of the Chronicle, this is very story. Apparently, the latest World Bank report dating back to 2012 indicates that the agricultural sector is collapsing. Yeah. The thing is, if you look at it, over 43% of people are still in the agricultural sector. Exactly. It's just that the quantum in terms of the capitalization of the sector has gone down, eroded into by the services sector. That even brings an interesting twist, because the finance minister indeed just suggested that we even had to borrow in excess of some 15,000 tons of cocoa to augment manufacturing. Yes. As far as value addition is concerned, you were in the House as a parliamentarian. Are you worried about this very phenomenon?
Yes. Let me first say good morning to your viewers this morning, especially
and also your constituents.
Exactly. The in the Eastern region. My brother, I was a member of the Food and Agriculture Committee in Parliament. That was the last Parliament. So I travel across the country by the committee, and also outside the country to study some of the policies that agricultural sectors in the various or other jurisdictions are doing. I went to India on 2 different occasions with sponsorship from ISPRI to look at agriculture policies and some of the things that we learned. I'm surprised we are not trying to implement same here. If countries like India, who weather condition is not even better than ours, have been able to manage their agriculture sector to the extent that they have excess food and even exports, some giving something to Ghana. I find it very difficult to understand why a country like Ghana cannot manage our agriculture sector to have a net exporter of agri-produce by instead trying to import cocoa to our cocoa processing companies in this country. It's very sad. And I think the issues are many, the factors that are contributing to the continued dropping of the agri sector are many. And number one of it all, to me, is government policies. You see, I quite remember when we went to Parliament in 2009, I was there with the Food and Agriculture Committee, and at the budget statement that was given to us, we're looking at the estimate of the Ministry of Agri, and we saw then the late Professor Mills' government cutting down investments in the agri sector. And I said, those of us in the committee were not happy with the rate at which investment is being cut. And they were trying to reduce budget deficit and those things. If you want to cut, don't cut item 3 and 4. Item 3 and 4 are investments that every sector will do in that very sector. So if agriculture, you are getting investment, what you are doing is that monies that should go into the farmers and other farming groups and organizations are going to be reduced. And at the end of the day, you will not see the effects very soon. It will take time. Then you will see that, yes, the agri sector will be dropping. So, but you see, we in Parliament, we don't have power to increase government votes, financial votes. We can reduce. If we think government is putting X amounts to this sector and we think it's too much, we can reduce and move to other sectors. We do the same sector, but other sections in the sector. But we don't have power to increase what government has proposed in order to throw government budget overboard. So the only thing we could do is to advise the government to stop cutting, especially financial vote for investment. They refused. And today, here we are, agri is dropping. And also, we must study the environment, the climate change, and then go according to what the climate is changing for. Quite remember last year season, for instance, fertilizer came in when the rain season is almost over. So
which ideally shouldn't have been the case.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been the case. The farmers should have the fertilizer, apply them before the rain starts. So why should we wait? And when the farmers needed the fertilizer, there was no fertilizer in the system. It's after the rain season is over before we saw government distributing fertilizer. Even that was even done by Cocoa Board. And also the way government is managing the fertilizer subsidy. They brought it to Parliament, a formula to Parliament, of which we said, oh no, this formula I don't think will be able to handle the situation. But at the point in time, we also had, we didn't even have much powers to vary the formula that the government gives. So we approved it for them. And here we are, that the subsidy, that is the agric subsidy, as a matter of fact, is also not helping farmers to get great yield. The NDC government, under Professor Mills, introduced youth in agriculture policy, and so many of them. Where are they? Where are these policies? We are no more seeing them. Under the late Kwashiga, the NPP government introduced a lot of agricultural programs and policies. For instance, because of the usage of weedicide, we have the coconut, which we get as a result of mixed farming. It's no more in the system. So Kwashiga introduced cocoyam plantation. This is where we have about 100 acres of cocoyam. Because in the old system where you have cassava farm with cocoyam as a mixed farming, the weedicide will kill the cocoyam. So let us get a full plantation of cocoyam. These are traditional foods that we can grow for it to tend to be a staple food. Now we are looking at rice as a staple food in every household in this country. And ask yourself, how much do we produce in terms of rice? We import most of our, so we should look at food that we can grow here, that we can easily get it available as a local food. We introduce people to use it so that becomes a staple food in this country.
Now, the finance minister, as we said before, was before the members of parliament. And so let's watch him. And then him also saying that at least over the last year, we had to import about 15,000 tons of cocoa beans to augment whatever the supplies were for local processing companies.
Mr. Speaker, with your kind permission, I wish to effect a correction. Second paragraph, line 4. The figure should be 15,500. 15,500. Mr. Speaker, I proceed to answer the question. Mr. Speaker, data from Ghana Cocoa Board shows that 15,500, again, tons of light crop cocoa beans were imported by Barry Callebaut Ghana Limited from Cote D'Ivoire in the 2014-2015 crop year. The Ghana Cocoa Board granted permission for this importation, as it normally does. Mr. Speaker, indeed, this is not the first time cocoa beans are being imported into the country. The records available show that this started in 2005. In fact, in 2008, the same company, Barry Callebaut Ghana Limited, imported 15,500 tons of light crop cocoa beans into the country from Nigeria and Togo. They likewise imported 7,000 tons from Nigeria and 8,500 tons from Togo. Cocoa Board normally restricts the supply from its light crop, which is limited, and therefore at any time in which, the light crop is not adequate, it grants permission, to the processors to bring in, the produce. So I believe that the policy, has not changed.
Okay, so that's the finance minister before Parliament and trying to explain something that he feels is not it's not peculiar to the past year as it is, but that has been a phenomenon, so to speak. But what do we say about it? We have the Member of Parliament for North Dine, also a legal practitioner in the studio, and Judge Lowe. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
All right. But the current state, as it is, for us even as far as the cocoa sector is, to have to augment supply to local processing companies by importation, it's as low as we can get. We're not saying, well, according to what the minister is saying, is not peculiar to that very particular year, that's 2015. But then it means that we've retrogressed, haven't we?
Well, thank you. Let me say good morning to our cherished viewers. Retrogression, I'm not too sure. I believe that in every sectoral program you find occasional needs, peculiar needs that need to be addressed, and I believe this is one of them. As it were, like the minister rightly said, when the issue came up in 2005, this was the way we had to resolve it. Overall, we should be looking at a way of ensuring that we don't get into this kind of deficits where we would have to bring in from outside. But having said that, if the problem arises, and this is the best way we have to resolve it, we'll resolve it. But we must all accept that we need to keep our eyes on the ball. We need to ensure that sector, cocoa sector, very important sector, keeps growing. We need to maintain the growth. We need to put in whatever it takes to ensure that we perform very well, because that is where I'm sure that I will not be wrong if I say this guy is one of the greatest golden chicken that lays a golden egg. So I think that, well, the explanation, as it were, we can't do anything about because that's why. But I think that moving forward, we should try hard not to be getting into these kind of situations.
If the current state and the statistics we have indicates that we've seen a reduction in agricultural sector, even though we still have a large chunk of our working population in that very sector, an erosion or eroded into by the services sector, it means that capitalization for the sector, for example, has drastically reduced by GDP growth, etc. That also doesn't give any indication about how the committal of government policy is towards the sector.
You see, Roland, let's be careful when we are arriving at these conclusions, because you see, the challenge we've had as a country is not about whether agric is running down, but it's rather that the services sector had peaked, right? Minus the manufacturing base. You see, every economy, for the economy to follow a logical growth, agric, if you have an agrarian country like ours, agric is your backbone, then it dovetails into manufacturing, industry, value addition at that level, and then services.
So what's wrong then now?
Now we have jumped from agric straight to services in terms of growth. Manufacturing has been something that we have not paid attention to, and therefore that has misaligned.
That's a massive weakness, is now.
Of course, that is why you remember that consistently the president has been talking about the need to realign our economy, and that is why he's talking about that. He's talking about new factories. The
president has been saying this for the last 2 years.
Yes, I'm saying that he's talking about new factories. He's talking about manufacturing, so sugar factory, rice mills, rice factory, and things like that. Because if you don't have a manufacturing base, okay, you stand a risk. Because why? If you have the agric sector, let's say that cocoa, so we are producing cocoa. Let's say that we produce even 2 million tons of cocoa. If we are not adding value to the manufacturing chain, it doesn't translate. Yes, it doesn't translate into a lot. Services sector would then now drive the two sectors, and it has. If you go look at the statistics across the world, you will find out that the countries that are doing well are following that logical progression. So yes, there is a problem because we paid lip service to our manufacturing. That's from.
And we're still paying lip service.
I mean, from time immemorial.
And we're still paying.
Yes, and the solution does also not lie. It doesn't lie simplicity in somebody coming with a magic wand to resolve it. We must have a medium-term plan. We must have a long-term plan. Don't forget that when we started this manufacturing chain, we had 79 manufacturing industries. By the time Nkrumah was leaving, I think that it was only about very few who were doing very well. You understand? It means that it's a sector we haven't managed very well. And the earlier we go back
and take a relook.
A relook, the better. And I am happy that at least we are now talking about new sugar factories or across some of the regions. We are talking about a few other things that are coming on stream. And I think that we should continue, we should speed up that momentum, and that we will make progress. Other than that, like you are saying, the service sector, which has overtaken the other, how many people do they employ? Just oppose that with the agri sector and the manufacturing sector, how many people? So you are seeing that, yes, we are having growth, but we are having what we call a jobless growth. Because it's not translating into jobs. You see, that is why we are talking about unemployment all the time. Because if our sectors were following the logical growth, they generate jobs. Anytime there's a new factory, new farmhouse.
We're talking about numbers.
Yes, numbers. Anytime there is, then agri knows that when I produce, so many people know that when you enter into agriculture, the manufacturing sector is waiting to take my product.
Because there's the demand.
Yeah, because there's a demand.
That has been created by the framework. But now we haven't created the framework.
Yes, that is it. That's for the services sector. Mind you, it is IT driven.
That is why I asked the question, Mr. Ayepe, about the commitment of government policy towards it. He made a mention that post-independence, we've paid lip service, but the commitment, whether it will be from decades past or currently, has not been there.
I want to disagree to the fact that when the service sector is growing, automatically the agri and then the manufacturing sector should drop.
I haven't said that.
You can grow both.
I don't remember saying that.
You can grow both at the same time.
I don't remember.
What he said was that we've jumped. We've jumped as far as the global
phenomenon. That is why we are seeing the agri sector and the manufacturing sector dropping. And I'm saying no. The two can grow at the same time. By the way, my point is this. We must first find out why we are talking about value addition. Yet we have cocoa that we prefer exporting the raw beans to the value addition. You see, I'm saying this because if you look at the quantity of beans that the local manufacturers need to add the value as compared to what we export, not that farmers were not able to grow enough beans for us, but rather we prefer to export the raw beans down to giving it to the local manufacturers to add
at a certain
value.
price.
So what are we talking about? The value addition. And I think this brought about by the syndicate cocoa loans that government goes in. Because when you go for the syndicate loans from the various banks, you must be able to get the raw beans to pay back. So if you look at the quantity of beans that you need to pay back the loan as compared to the percentage that you need to retain in order to add the value, you have no option. So whilst government, you are talking about government policy, while government is going for syndicate loan, you must look at the produce, what you can produce at the end of the year.
Do you see the commitment from government based on
that is what
policy?
I'm driving at. You see, the policy is even not there. Not talk about commitment.
But you can't say you can't necessarily say the policy for the agricultural sector is not there, because as far as I'm concerned, we've seen the policy towards improving irrigation, making sure we have a certain non-dependence on export or imports all the time as far as rice is. And we've seen a reduction on some of those numbers. Is it a difficulty we have with the quantity or in terms of the margins by which the reductions are?
Well, to me, if you have a policy that does not work, then it's better you don't even have it at all. Okay. Because if you look at the agri sector, for instance, if we have a policy, we should know what cocoa are we going to produce at this season, 2014-2015 season. Then we look at the percentage that could be exported. First, we must look at the percentage that can be used and value added to it before we go for the syndicate.
I get your
point.
So
we don't end up exporting
you wanted to say something. I wanted also to touch on.
I'm saying very president. When he's talking about the policy not being there, I think that first and foremost, we identify the problem. You remember that in the recent meeting, the president explained something. He said, look, most of our cocoa trees are old, and therefore we need to revive.
Somebody told me, and I remember Honorable Dr.
700 metric tons.
As I speak to you, there are about 8 million new seedlings distributed.
My brother, don't let us go there. The most important thing is that we should look at what we produce.
Areas we didn't used to
what quantity are we producing?
So you're saying that we've had cocoa trees that are not producing the same yield as
that is it. So now we are augmenting them.
The problem that
the finance minister was before Parliament yesterday.
It's about the syndicate zone that we went.
Please. I am saying that we are talking about yield, and I'm saying that the policy is to increase production. Where the
finance minister also was before you yesterday.
Yes.
And then we had many of you, majority, I don't know in what quantum, saying that for all the difficulties we've had with microfinance companies, we needed bailouts. What does it mean? It means that government needs to cough out the money, and for example, companies like DKM who had misused depositors' funds or investments, we have to pay back, use the taxpayers' money? Is that it?
Yeah, Roland, before I start, let me just finish that little bit that I left. And I'm saying that we are deploying about 8 million seedlings. And even areas which used to grow cocoa, which no longer grow cocoa, we are encouraging them to grow cocoa.
You are not getting
so there is a clear
Nobody
policy.
is talking about yield and production.
There is a clear policy of...
We are talking about percentage that needs to be retained.
The issue that is talking about, if we have more production,
then there will be some for the local market. There will be some
for the local market. So that's all.
Okay,
now let's go to
DKM. Sammy.
Now let's go into DKM. The DKM issue, you cannot say for sure that there is a position either majority or minority.
No, sure. We're talking parliament.
You're talking parliament. But when you're even talking parliament, it's one area where many people have various views
on that very sector.
Yeah. Some people are talking about bailout, and their reason is very basic. They are saying that, look, the Bank of Ghana has a duty to perform. To the extent that they didn't perform that duty, and therefore DKM...
Is that the mindset among some sections?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That the Bank of Ghana was supposed to have done this and that.
Of course,
they were not very much on top of their issue.
No, they were not as proactive as they should be.
Okay.
They were not as proactive, because when you see danger or you see the red line, you should crack the whip. They were a little too late in moving in, and therefore that allowed some of the things to happen. But you see, having said that, Bank of Ghana has been set up to resolve some of these things. The challenge is that 77 million, a little over 77 million, as against some.
That was about 85%.
The percentage, 85%. How are we going to? Are we saying that the people should just be left on their own? You know, even in international circles where there is economic
credit crunch and
things like that,
the American government
comes out to bail out. The bailout may come in different ways. It's not necessarily
either there's a payback or
some kind of incentive is given to people to, you know, find a way of getting out of the crime.
So that's just one side of the view among the
that's just many people have other views. Somebody says, well, you took a risk, and then you took a risk and looking at the kind of risk you took, because somebody was saying that we give you so much of a percentage which
enticed you.
Yes, I mean, which enticed you. I mean, it's like, let the buyer beware. You are going to buy something, it looks too good to be true, and yet you went ahead. So they should be left on their own. The other people have various.
So we want to add some moral and humane aspects to this argument, and because we know this also has been shrouded in some political party debates, as far as that is concerned. But should we make this a precedent?
Yeah, those of us who are calling for bailout.
You're part of them.
Yes, I am. We are not looking at the company DKM and other microfinance companies. Neither are we looking at those who took the risk. We are looking at it as a national disaster. Look, we are talking about agriculture. We're just now talking about the dropping of agriculture in this country. And you know, Brown Harford, Northern Region, Upper East and Upper West, their main job is agriculture, and they are food basket for this country. So most of the farmers, as a matter of fact, as a result of this DKM issue, were not able to do proper farming today. They were not able to do plantations. They were not able to cultivate what we are supposed. So very soon, if care is not taken, next year, the agri sector is going to drop deeper than what we are seeing today. So we are saying that in order to rescue the whole country. Because definitely, if those in the brown half were not able to get their base, those of us in Accra are going to suffer at the end of the day. So it's a national disaster. So let us bail out. We look at the farmers among them, and then we see, okay, we cannot get your money back to you, but we want you to go back into agriculture. So this is what policy government is having to support you, so that this is
all
you can start. Yes, you can start your farming. That is exactly what we are looking at. We are looking at the humanitarian aspect, and also as a form of a national disaster, which can affect those of us in Accra here. Because if you stand right at Achimota in the morning, early morning between 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., and you look at the plantain that moves from Brong Ahafo sector into Greater Accra, go to the Domain Market, go to Malata Market, go to Okaisha Bubulushi. The plantains that we have in there are from Brong Ahafo region. And these are same farmers. Some of them are committing suicide, some of them are not being able to go to their
How many have committed suicide? We keep saying they committed suicide. Some are dying. We just make blanket statements out of it.
It's not blanket. We have information. We not even have the number of people that are, but actually we know that few.
Okay, let me ask you. Let me run this by you. Both of us, whether, the two of you are MPs, a legal practitioner, you may be an entrepreneur, also you have your profession, etc. I also have mine. But we're all customers. We go and invest. We're supposed to absorb a certain risk, and there's some level of liquidation for the investment company that we all put our money in. Okay, I can't manage the risk. You can better manage the risk. You can somehow also manage the risk. And so I'm in the minority, but I'm calling for a bailout. I just want us to run our mind through it.
Yeah, that is why I've explained that
that's become a subject
we are not looking at the
political
bank
party
as DKM.
Platform discourse.
Yes, we are not looking at DKM. We are not looking at the investor.
You're looking at the sector.
We are looking at as a national disaster, as the effects of what is happening in Brong Ahafo region now, the effect that agriculture is going to suffer. And as a result, those of us here are also going to have the same effect. And,
if we don't do that, that's okay.
Before it comes in, you see, there's also an angle we have to look at. For instance, I wanted a loan from a bank to do a business. It was agri-related. So when I went to the bank, I was asking the bank that, looking at the nature of work I'm going to use the money for, being agri-related, it should come down with the interest rate. They agree. But at the point in time, they say, hey, we cannot come down again because Bank of Ghana will be on our neck, which shows that Bank of Ghana scrutinized and monitored.
But there's a microfinance sector. You also have your rate. If you want a commercial bank, you have to go to a commercial
bank. But
if we don't do anything, what happens?
Well,
if the Minister of Finance puts this before cabinet and government as a body says, well, we can't do anything about it, is there a political connotation to all this, or are we being cocooned because just because
no. I'm not too sure that there should be a political.
Or can we do something about it?
Okay. Yeah, but my difficulty with what we can do about it is that, you see, my brother is talking about humanitarian. Why is it only farmers who have their money there?
Most of them are farmers.
So the farmers should be catered for, and then the rest of us, the rest of them should be left.
If we are going to help them, we help them.
Yeah, but that is for me. I think that anytime you make an investment, there is a risk component, and to the extent that the risk.
Have you looked at the failure of the bank?
If they had made the gargantuan profits that they made at the beginning, they should replow that back into the because they made.
Okay, now let's talk the humanitarian aspect. Should we?
I don't want us to go to areas that because from what we are talking about, we even hear, and that is hearsay. We even hear that some major politicians have their money in there. I mean, and then people have used
George, no, you are too big for that. You know, they said if these things were true, with their common fund.
Please, I haven't talked about. I haven't said common fund. I said I know that.
You said you hear that
I said some politicians put their money there. But why? I am saying that me. Is it is my only source of funding I have, or the money I get common fund? No. So if
but this what came out.
Please, I haven't mentioned common fund. I was choosing my words carefully. Well, I know that common fund doesn't come to you to go and put in an investment, so it cannot happen. So that I'm saying
it doesn't come to you directly.
No. You cannot. So
you kind of supervise how the money is used.
Yes, that's all. So it's a non-starter. I am saying that people, all kind of people are here, even school fees from some schools and things that have gone to invest. people have invested, hoping that when they reap, they'll do all sorts of things.
Churches.
I think that churches. So I don't think that we should encourage this.
So there's a lot of interest groups in this whole argument.
Well.
So I'm saying that
there shouldn't be a bailout.
Yes, I'm saying that I don't see a bailout.
All right, let's look at
that
this.
is my position.
I know we're hard pressed for time. My time is up, but I want us to take 2 minutes. And I think my director, there's this thing about there's a bishop, a Methodist superintendent minister, just Jolo here in Accra, saying that the president is imposing the EC.
No, EC rather.
Okay, EC is scheming to impose Mahama on Ghanaians. What do you make of the statement? I know you've heard this.
I can only laugh about it. I mean,
you have 2 minutes, though.
I mean, Roland.
It's just one of them.
I am saying that anybody who makes this kind of statement does not understand how electoral system operates and electoral.
I don't get you.
I am saying that nobody, the kind of system we have in place, nobody can impose anybody on anybody. In fact, the EC election day, this thing alone does not inure to anybody's advantage, if you ask me. So for a Reverend Minister to be saying this, the only excuse I can have for him is that he's talking about out of will you say ignorance or misunderstanding of how our electoral system works,
or partisanship.
Well, I mean, if he partisan, I don't know him, so I haven't met him before.
Your 2 minutes is up.
Yes,
so
yes, he's a lieutenant minister, and I think he knows what he's talking about. And I will not say that he doesn't understand, and he's talking about ignorance and all that. But the important is that if we have about 5 ministers or leaders or elders in this country who can
talk like the way he is,
the way he's talking, it will be good for the country because.
But you're one of the leaders. You're talking like that.
Yes.
So
yes.
you've added to it too.
People are talking about peace march. Recently, the Security Services Wives Association embark on peace march. There will be a football match between political parties and the Muslim leaders and the Christian. You see, we want peace, so they are trying to advocate for.
This is one of the means of ensuring that we have peace.
The most important thing is that let us point to the Electoral Commission that as we are campaigning for peace, this and this are what you are doing. That will not bring the peace.
So far, the Electoral Commission is doing things that you are not satisfied.
Exactly.
I don't see the point.
They should be able to tell the Electoral Commission that you are doing ABCD. As we are campaigning for peace, as we are doing things that will bring us peace, we must practically see the Electoral Commission doing things that will bring peace into the country.
What
not
have
only
they,
the
what
match
have they done?
and the football matches
what
and
have they done? What have the Electoral Commission
already
done?
If you take a copy of the Chronicle, you take a copy of the Chronicle on page 2. On page 2 of the paper, we have it's been captioned MPP questions electoral process.
Yes.
And there's a missive coming from the Directorate of Communications of the MPP, signed by the director, Nana Komia. Talks about the voter register, manual registration steering committee. A lot of insight you can have as far as the politics of the country is concerned. But we have at the industry Samuel Ayepe. He's a member of parliament for Yenswano. And also George Lowe. My good friend George Lowe is a member of parliament for North Dye. He's also a legal practitioner. We're taking a break.